Okay, so on to some frequently asked questions that we get asked. I mean, well, one of them actually is standing down. What does it mean? And remember, we're business advisors, tax experts. We're not HR or lawyers. In this respect, when it comes to standing down, very important. Speak to people with HR expertise or an employment lawyer. Understand what it actually means standing down. A brief overview from what we can gather is it's not as simple as it seems. And if you've got an enterprise bargaining agreement or an employment contract, you need to review those, okay, seeing what standing down might actually mean and comply with them. Otherwise, in the absence of those, you revert to the Fair Work Act. And the Fair Work Act requires a stoppage outside the employer's control and that the employee can't be redeployed. So um, a slowdown may not be considered enough for a stoppage. Okay, that's one thing to note. And secondly, redeployment doesn't require substantial re-engineering of the business to make it possible. So these are just some of the things that we've pulled out on the whole issue of standing down. But it's really important if you're going to stand people down, make sure you've spoken to someone with HR expertise so they can guide you through the process. Another frequently asked question: start and finish date. 30th of March, date announced it starts, and that's I guess that's a challenging world we as tax advisors live in. You start applying something on the day it's announced in a press conference, and then we kind of pick up the pieces as it goes along in terms of what does it mean, all the gaps in the announcements versus the legislation, application, etc. The end date is 27th of March. So at the moment, the government said it's a drop dead date. It's finite, and I think we're sincerely hoping and praying that the economy and the lockdown that we're currently in has finished by that point. In the 1 month between the announcement and the ATO paying you, which is basically the whole month of April, they said, speak to your bank, I mentioned earlier. But you remember you are afforded some grace during that period. So for the first month, you have until the end of April to make good all the payments, understanding that cash flow downturn in business and obtaining credit facilities from banks isn't exactly easy. The payments in arrears. Okay, so often people ask, how does this work? Well, it's actually payment in arrears for wages that you've paid. That's important to note. ATO's not paying you in advance, they're paying you in arrears. Another one, will the JobKeeper payment be used to offset ATO debts? Unlike the PAYG cash flow boost, okay, which we covered in another video, the large PAYG credit, that did offset ATO debts because it sits on the ATO integrated client account as credit. This one does not. So the intention is to inject the cash back into the economy for employers. Another question, can an employee find a second job to supplement their income? The answer is yes. The condition of the JobKeeper subsidy is just that you receive it from only one employer. That's all. So if you say that the example I always give 2 days a week from one employer, you might have got a nominal pay rise. If you go and work other jobs during the week, say you drive an Uber even, or you do some cleaning somewhere, whatever you can get, those amount you can still go out and earn money from supplementary jobs, and it won't jeopardize the JobKeeper payment, so long as you're only nominated to receive from one employer and the usual conditions of you're an employee on 1st of March, Australian citizen, PR, over 16, etc. Another commonly asked question, I've got a trust or a company that owns a whole lot of commercial property assets, earning a lot of rent. I'm director, I paid a wage. Can I get it? Our understanding and our reading is no. Okay, only businesses qualify. So whilst you may still have an ABN, it may be commercial rental you receive GST on, the intention and spirit of this is that it's for businesses. So the answer is no. And final one, will there be, actually not final one, is there integrity measures? Yeah, there are integrity measures. So they are going to look at this with retrospect and see whether people have tried to massage operations or manipulate the law. Okay. If you're part of a significant, another question, if I'm part of a significant global entity, there's a group with a turnover of more than $1 billion globally, am I 50% or 30%? Our reading is generally you're going to be 50% because of the aggregation rule and the way it works. Final two questions. If I don't qualify now, can I qualify later? The answer is yes. Okay, because it's the way it's tested, quarterly or monthly, you choose on an ongoing basis, and the months can be any month between, call it 1st of April to end of September. So any of the intervening months, April, May, June, July, August, September. If in any of those months you experience a 30% downturn compared to the comparable month of the prior year on what you submit on your BAS, you qualify from that point onwards. Okay, so that's important to know and understand, because there are some businesses that are immediately impacted. There are others where there's a lead in time. So F&B, events, retail, they've experienced really sharp downturn. They're probably going to qualify quite early. Even dentists, I got clients who are dentists, because of the level 3 restrictions placed by the government. They've experienced a very sharp downturn very quick. Other businesses, say professional services, there may be a lead in time. They may still be busy. Firms like us helping clients through this, but undoubtedly there will be a point in time where we're all affected by it. So there is an ongoing testing regime. And final one, if you're receiving the JobKeeper subsidy, can you also receive the apprentice and trainee subsidy? Answer's no. Okay. So the next question is, what's next? What do I do next? Well, looking at where we are now, I'm recording this 15th of April. Enrollment process. You've got to get onto that really quick. Okay. You need to have enrolled by 26th of April for that first pay period. And we're seeing the ATO forms being released. They're no doubt going to have a flood of inquiries. So get on top of it now. Talk to us, talk through the issues, We'll need to talk about, okay, are you a 50% or a 30%? What's your projected GST turnover? Do you qualify, etc.? And I guess the final thing is looking at your manpower requirements at the end of this. Standing down is fair and reasonable, but what's really important for all businesses is looking at, okay, the measures were introduced to ensure that you make it out the other side and are still alive. The government's hibernation strategy. What you need to ensure is your workforce is the right workforce in terms of size, experience, mix, for what trading conditions might be at the end of this. So that's actually really important, your manpower planning. So to everyone, stay safe, continue to be optimistic. I know it can be hard sometimes, and till the next video, we speak soon.